Hello, what's up, guys? It's Will back once again. We're here for another fight card prediction. We're here for our last pay-per-view of 2020, UFC 256 from the Apex in Las Vegas for Deiveson Figueiredo against Brandon Moreno. Again, these two have fought 3 weeks ago at UFC 255. Quick turnaround for both dudes here. So really looking forward to kind of seeing how this one goes down. Really amped for these two guys jumping back in here so quick and getting at it. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I think we're just going to fall short of our 4,000 target for the year, but it is what it is. It's like I said, I got pretty close. I can't really grumble at that. But if you can throw a thumbs up, we can try and maybe hit 200 likes for this video. Would be much, much appreciated if we could do that. Just a couple of thank yous and just a couple of shout outs I want to give to Johnny, to Gane. Thank you guys for your help regarding the donating to animal charities, guys. If you would like to do that and help regarding homeless animals over Christmas by getting some donations in, it'd be much, much appreciated. And you can get in touch with me through my Twitter. My email, I'll pop down below as well. And if you're interested to talk about it, then by all means, my DMs are open and we can talk about it there. I can see a few of you guys in the chat there. Kiro, what's up? I hope you're well. This is a good card. I think it's taken a couple of hits recently in the last kind of few days, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. It's still a really good card. And if the pay-per-view portion can stay together, then it'll look fantastic. So hopefully everything's going well. Still getting used to this StreamYard malarkey a little bit. So, yeah, let's get into this fight card. But before I do that, I am going to bring up my record from last week. My betting record. So, as you can see, down in here, plus 4.49 units for the week. And it's really just been keeping a really steady run that I've had through November. Honestly, I started off there, 4 units, 1.53, 9.23, 2.96, and then 4.49. I took some shots on some underdogs I thought had shots. Didn't really come through. Jamahal Hill came through pretty convincingly. And then that was a pretty solid parlay there. And Benitez via TKO and plus 300 was the shot there. And yeah, that's kind of how I went for last week. Really in a good spot for the year, plus 37 units, I believe it is. So that is a really encouraging thing for me to get into that spot there. And now if we move across to Tapology here, quickly see what's going on with this card there. Like, really solid main card you can see at the top there. Prelims have got some solid spots in amongst here as well. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's a tough betting card, honestly. I've found some rather horrible like fights that I might be betting on, but I'm doing so well betting wise. I'm going to take some shots in some uncomfortable positions here. So we're going to start off Chase Hooper against Peter Barrett, 9-1-1. Peter Barrett, 11-4. And I think Chase Hooper, I believe, is like minus 400. So let's bring this card up. Where are we there? Yeah, so Chase Hooper's went down a little bit. So minus 380 to plus 315 on the Peter Barrett side. Honestly, I'm going to go with Chase Hooper here. I watched some Peter Barrett fights and was not... I was going to say was not too impressed, but was alarmed by some of the positions that I seen him put in with lesser caliber opponents. And I'm not saying that like Barrett's much like he's that much better than the guys he was against, but he's like, if you go and have a look, I mean, he's put in bad positions. He's caught in arm bars. He's caught in guillotine chokes. He puts himself in constantly in bad positions, and that's never a good look. And the one way that Chase Hooper wins his fight, because his stand-up's god-awful, is if he gets this fight to the ground and he can reign in positions there and just ride into different submissions. I thoroughly believe that he's got a massive, massive advantage down there. And like I say, Peter Barrett, I think, will let him kind of get into situations where he can control on the back. And I think if he does that, he's in deep shit. He's been training with Ben Askren for this one there, so hopefully his wrestling's better, because his wrestling I don't think was overly that great beforehand to get into the positions he is, but he was fighting low caliber opposition and he was catching those positions fairly easily. But if Peter can keep this standing, I mean, Chase Hooper's got not very good stand-up, so then he could possibly get him there. I mean, he showed a lot of toughness in that Yusuf Zalal fight, in my opinion. You saw him absorb a massive kick to the side of the neck, I think it was, and looked like he was kind of on his way out, and then really slid through and kept in that fight in that spot there. So yeah, I'm going to pick Chase Hooper, but like minus 380 to me is like a little rough to me. It's not the spot that I would honestly kind of like to be in there. So I'm going to go Chase Hooper. I'm going to go a submission inside the first 2 rounds. Up next, we've got Serghei Spivak against Jared Vanderaa. And Spivak's kind of actually surprised me a little bit, because if you probably watched the first fight when he went to UFC, I don't want to say I was ripping into him a little bit. I just didn't think he was that great and he was UFC caliber. But I actually think since then I've been impressed with these 3 runs here. I mean, he's got a loss to Tybura, very experienced grappler, very experienced fighter, I should say, and he is fairly okay in kind of every position and in every aspect of the game. But came through, got some big takedowns against Tai Tuivasa, got an arm triangle choke. Then, like I said, that Tybura loss there. There's nothing wrong with that. And then he kind of, to me, I can see developments in his game, and he won a fairly unanimous decision in that point there. Showing that he's got a nice jab, he can clinch up, he can get takedowns through that, but ultimately he kind of shut down Carlos Felipe, and there was people that thought that Felipe would kind of run through Spivak a little bit, and people have started to call out Spivak thinking that he's a kind of easier fight, and I don't think he's all that easy a fight. I've heard that he's went American top team for this one as well, so that's interesting to see his development as a fighter there. I actually really like the Tom Aspinall fight. Shame that fight did not go ahead. But Vanderaa is a guy that we've seen on the Dana White Tuesday Contender Series, and I mean, he's not. I don't think he's all that special a fighter, honestly. Coming off a win over Harry Hunsucker, which is a great name, by the way. Beating the kind of Tony Lopez, is a guy that's got nearly 100 fights. That's kind of crazy. But he's a guy that kind of struggled in LFA, had to go over to AFC where he's been fighting. These guys are very well known. Ruan Potts, Andrew Van Zyl are very, very well known over in South Africa, kind of big names in the African kind of fight scene. But we've seen how Ruan Potts really showed out in the UFC, not great at all. And Andrew Van Zyl, like I say, he's solid over there with a solid record, but he's really not beaten many top kind of caliber guys. For me here, Vanderaa has to get the fight to the ground and has to be in a dominant position with his ground and pound. I think if he isn't, I think he's going to get picked apart in the feet a little bit. He could get clinched up. He could get out hustled, I think, by Serghei Spivak. So for me, that means I am sticking with Serghei Spivak in this spot here. Tecia Torres against Sam Hughes, 11-5 against 5-1. And the gap in experience in this fight, I know there's like 10 fights between them, how many they're all together, but Tecia Torres really she faces the elite people in her division. She has done for many years. I mean, look at that run of L's there that she took. Rodriguez, Zhang, Joanna, Andrade. I'm actually a little bit disappointed that she's not fighting Angela Hill. I was going to bet Tecia Torres in this spot. I bet her in this fight as a big underdog, came through, and that's one of the spots I really like. When everybody seems to be on one side, I pivot to the other side, and I thought she looked great in that fight. I thought she's looked as good as she has in a long time, but to me, that was a little bit of a drop down. I think Rodriguez she's not in obviously the level of these girls here, but she's still very solid, and she just lost that one straight out, but she stopped the Van Buren kind of takedowns, managed to keep it in the feet, was just too fast, was peppering with punches, and really kind of won the fight through that. Sam Hughes, not overly impressed. I watched her last 2 fights. I lost to Vanessa Demopoulos and this one here against Hindley. I think the experience is going to play a part here. I'm coming in here short notice against Torres, who's always in great condition, always looks in just fantastic condition and is ready to kind of go. And she's a really, really solid fighter. I think people were actually like they said she was done pretty much, and I'm like, I wasn't too sure on that. That's why I kind of went with her against Van Buren, but I just think she's too experienced here. I think the caliber opposition she's faced, coming in on short notice, I think it's not the greatest look for Sam Hughes, but she can jump in here and make herself a name for herself by beating Tecia Torres. If she does that, I just don't think she will. I think that, honestly, I think that Tecia Torres could possibly get her out of there. I think there's a spot where she could, but most likely you have to kind of pick via decision, in my opinion, there. So I've got Tecia Torres for the win there. Just seeing some of you guys there. You said you've got Spivak for sure. Well said. If I can get a decent line on Tecia by decision or just fight goes to decision, I'll take it from Damien. And I think Tecia would beat Angela Hill. I was on that with you, Will. She was an underdog as well. I thought it was a great spot. So I was gutted when that fight kind of fell to the wayside and we missed out in that spot. But it is what it is. You kind of move on. And now we're moving on to the next fight in the card here. What am I looking up here? Here we go. Let me bring this up. Sorry, guys. I'm still a kind of newbie at this here. Billy Quarantillo against Gavin Tucker. I'll be honest with you. I really struggle with this fight. I think that initially I was on Gavin Tucker and I did the MMA Huddle podcast on Monday and I've kind of flip-flopped a little bit, but I'm one of these guys that once I make a pick, I really like to try and stick to it, not unless there's something definitive that I really, really like in that guy that I will go there. So I am going to stick with my Gavin Tucker pick. I think that the line to me is kind of a little bit crazy. I think the line should be a little bit closer. So minus 155. I know some real sharps who really like excuse me, guys. I know some people that really, really like Billy Quarantillo in this spot. So you're getting a healthy plus 135 on Gavin Tucker if you're after a good underdog who I think can fight hard. And to me, Billy to me is a guy that I really, what I like about him is he kind of, as the fight goes on, he puts on more and more pressure. He keeps going. He's a hard guy to face because he's decent at jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's okay. I don't think his striking's all that great, but it's enough. To me, when you look at Gavin Tucker, I think that he has really good low kicks. I think he can attack the body, but then when you, like I say, a lot of people are kind of writing him off because he beat Justin James, and I was like, I know he came through some hairy spots. I think he got dropped in that one there. To me, it's just, I think that Justin James, you've seen last week that he can take some heavy thuds. He can go after it, but to me, once you kind of have got the beating of him, I think he can wilt, and I think that's what kind of happened there. But I can see Bison saying here that he's saying is a guy who gets better the longer the fight goes. Tucker will not be able to handle the relentless pressure Quarantillo brings, and I kind of agree with that. But my gut feeling is Gavin Tucker. I'll be honest with you. That's who I was on kind of early on in the week. It was when I was watching some fights in theirs last week. And Quarantillo's a guy that I don't underestimate by any means, but I've kind of picked against him against Spike Carlisle. I still think Spike had a shot to really win that fight. I don't think I've got a good read in this fight, honestly. But I am going to stick with my Gavin Tucker pick. I think that's where I would like to be in that spot. So I am going to take Gavin Tucker. But if you got on that Billy Quarantillo, I think he was like minus 115. That's not a bad looking bet in my opinion. Off that, I'm just on the Tucker side. But honestly, guys, it's one of my most least confident picks. Plus, kind of Billy's got the kind of frame of like a Rick Glenn, and that kind of scares me off a little bit. I don't think he's got the striking prowess of Rick Glenn, but I'll still the stature of him I think could really play out in this spot here. Mackenzie Dern against Virna Jandiroba is up next. I am on Mackenzie Dern, but I do see I think I do see some value on Virna, and I know some people are really, really high on her as well as a prospect. I think she's 16-1, and then you've got Mackenzie, who I think is 9-1. To me here, I think that the ground game kind of levels itself out. I think that both girls are very dangerous down there in different ways. I think Mackenzie is very more, she can finish you, where Virna is a girl that can really control you in the ground. But on the feet, I think there's a big advantage for Mackenzie Dern, and that's saying something. But then Mackenzie Dern, in my opinion, she's not super strong with her hands. She has been getting better, in my opinion. And I like the fact that she's working with Jason Perillo. I think that's a big tick in my side for her. I think that's a good thing, and I think that's where she can really take advantage in this fight here, because if you watch Mackenzie's last two fights, I mean, she's beat Hannah Cyphers and she has beat, let me bring up, I've totally forgot, Randa Marcos. They, in my opinion, Randa and Hannah Cyphers just made glaring mistakes by playing the ground game of Mackenzie Dern, and ultimately ended up costing them, both getting submitted. But they made big errors, in my opinion. Virna, in my opinion, she won't make that kind of mistake when she's down there. I think she will strategically try to move into positions where she can dominate. And I think Mackenzie can possibly let her maybe play that game a little bit, because Mackenzie will go for submissions. She will go for leg locks, whatever it may be. But on the feet is where I see the kind of biggest difference in this fight. But then you're trying to really trust the hands of Mackenzie Dern, and I think she has power. I think she has a bit of a wallop on her if she catches you with the right shot. So to me, I'm on Mackenzie Dern. This is the fight I spoke about on Monday, and as the fight week goes on, I'm kind of getting more tempted by Mackenzie Dern, but I've got a funny feeling that she might catch Virna with a big shot and hurt her. But -185, I don't want to play that. If you're going to play it, it has to be in the Virna side. If you're confident that's a decent number, and it seems to be only going up. Mackenzie's number seems to only be going up. Like, she's -185, Virna's 160. For me, I am going to take Mackenzie Dern. Actually, I'm going to take her via stoppage. I'm going to go wild a little bit and think that she stops her via strikes. But I know a lot of people who are really, really good at predicting fights and betting on fights that are on the Virna side. So fair play to those guys. I'm going to be on the Mackenzie Dern side here and go with her in that one there. The main event of the prelims here, we have... Let me bring this screen up. Sorry, guys, I've got a cough there. I'm catching something. I don't know what it is. Not great. Where am I? There we go. Cub Swanson against Daniel Pineda. Another one that really interests me in this fight here. I'm actually going to pick Cub Swanson. To me, I've had some people say that, this guy's done, he's done that. And there's definitely, when you look at his game, there's definitely spots where you can see that he's digressed a little bit. And I mean, you look at his losses in here, that nothing to really be ashamed about, because he's held a belt. He's been high up in the division. He's fought for a belt, will probably fight for a belt again. Shane Burgos is a top 15 guy, in my opinion. Close fight. Don't understand how it was a split. I thought Shane kind of won a little bit more convincing than that. And then he fought Cron Gracie, where he went in there and he absorbed a lot more shots. You know what's going to come from Cron Gracie. He's a very dangerous grappler. But he absorbed a lot of shots in that one there. When you look at Daniel Pineda, in my opinion, he's a guy that will go all out to get the kind of takedown. And he beat, I think, to me, a lot of people are putting a lot of sway into this win over Herbert Burns. To me, I think he had trouble at the weigh-ins. I think that was a kind of short notice kind of fight there. And he had just a big trouble with the weigh-ins there. But again, great win. These fights in here are against two top guys, tough guys, Jeremy Kennedy, Movlid Kabalayev over there in the PFL. He popped for a performance-enhancing drug there, so that's not a great look. To me, he has to get this fight to the ground, because I think the longer he goes on, I think that he can gas himself out a little bit, kind of going a little bit for those takedowns. So he has to sell out for those takedowns. If he doesn't get it, then I think the clean hands and the clean boxing of Cub Swanson will take over, in my opinion. So, for me, I've got Cub Swanson. I think I just need him I just need him to get through the first round. I think once Pineda starts to tail off a little bit, I think Cub comes into this fight and he will win the fight via decision. So that is a bet I'm honestly looking at. The number is plus 145. I mean, that line to me is a little bit, that's high. So if I can get that up at plus 150, I'm in on that. I'm actually in on it now, but I've not bet it. It's something I'm looking at. It is sketchy because Cub Swanson, like you say, he is kind of tailing off, but I think this is a very winnable fight for him. So I'm going to take him to win that fight via a 29-28 decision there. So we're moving on to the main card now. And this is a very, very, very solid main card. Hopefully, it stays together. We have none of this COVID malarkey like we had last week where fights were falling off, because this is a really good main card, and it starts off in the heavyweight division with the surging prospect and Ciryl Gane against the former UFC heavyweight champion Junior Cigano de Santos. To me, I think I haven't seen too many people on the De Santos side, which is not a surprise. And I've obviously seen a lot more people here, and you know what you're kind of what you see with Ciryl Gane is something that's the kind of next level of heavyweights coming through. But like I say, still very, very inexperienced, with only been 6 fights, I think it is, and like only been a pro for just over 2 years. He's got a lot of kickboxing titles out there as well. But since he's come into the UFC, I mean, nice choke there, nice heel hook there, beat Tarabosa, which is a tough out. Not really a tough out, I want to say, but he's a tough guy to face. He's a hard guy to get out of there. And he really picked his shots very well and just won a very convincing decision in that one. To me, you have to pick Ciryl Gane here, unless you know something about Junior Dos Santos, because to me, he's gone. I think he looks in great shape, but he's hesitant with his boxing. I think if you can fight him at range, a little bit like what Curtis Blades did, he tried to grapple, actually did really well, stopped the takedowns, and then once he got into kind of get into the striking realm, he was just a little bit too cautious with his hands, didn't throw, and then Curtis Blades absolutely caught him with a clean shot and knocked him out. It was the same with the Rosenstrike fight there, where he was doing okay, but he was just a little bit scared, in my opinion, of throwing certain shots. So, and Ciryl Gane, to me, I think he can fight at distance, he can fight long, and he can kind of pick apart here. And the chin in Junior Dos Santos is kind of gone for me. So I have to be on the Ciryl Gane side here. I do feel like I want to somehow parlay this fight up, but I don't like the straight money line on Ciryl Gane. So maybe start round 2, something that I might look at. Just looking at some of you guys talking in the chat here, I'll bring some of these comments up. Brandon Phillips, a guy. What's up, Brandon? Hope you're well, brother. I actually quite like that bet. I actually quite like that one. I think everyone's on the TKO side. Not for me. I'm probably in the decision side in that one there. Tyler saying tough picks in the main card. We'll see. Gane for sure. Let's see what Damien's saying there. I think Gane gonna pull an Ortega and get a whole lot better. And I was on the junior side just a few months after the Boza fight. So, yeah, let me go back down in here. There's my good man, Tiger Bomb MMA. Go follow his channel, guys. GDS looked good, in my opinion, his last fight. He seems to have the drive to improve his, but his chin is gone. That's true. I don't think he looked bad in his last fight, honestly. Yeah, I'm with you. Gane is the opposite of Ngannou. Yeah, lots of underdogs opportunity in this card. Which ones are you liking, Kevin? Let me know. I want to know, because I've got one underdog bet so far, which I'll show you at the end. I probably will bet Cub Swanson, which is a little bit hairy, to say the least. But let me know who you're on in that one there. We are going to move on now. Kevin Holland against Jacare Souza. So I was just talking about my first bet, my only bet that I have in this card. And he was an underdog, so you could probably guess which side I'm on here. Let's bring him up. Let's bring this down first, actually. So, you're probably guessing I'm on Jacare Souza's side, and I am. And this is a little bit of a kind of scary bet. This might turn out to be an absolute double bet in my heart. But I've bet on Kevin Holland in numerous spots, and I've had to sweat my nutsack off trying to be confident in Kevin Holland. And yeah, to me, like I say, this is one of these spots here where Kevin Holland's making a massive jump up here. And I think that from who he's faced recently, so you bring up who Kevin Holland is faced in his recent fights, and fair to Kevin Holland, he's had fights booked where someone's had COVID or something's happened and they've jumped out. Joaquin Buckley came in very short notice. I don't think he looked great in this one here, but I think he jumped in there on fairly short notice. Then he beat this guy, Charlie Ontiveros, who shouldn't be in the UFC, in my opinion. So, but look who's been trying to face. Muradov, he was going to jump in there against Jack Hermansson. So he wants the good fights. He wants the big fights. And he's getting it here in Jacare Souza, who, to be fair, has kind of faded off. He might be one of these guys that the UFC could get rid of. They're talking about getting rid of up to 60 guys. And then if he loses this one, he's coming off 3 losses. His previous 2 losses are, I thought Jack Hermansson looked the best he ever did in that fight. And I thought in the Jan Blachowicz fight that Jacare just didn't look right at 205. I think that his game plan was horrible. Could not get the fight to the ground. And it was just outmatched in the feet. Kevin Holland, to me, is very susceptible to getting taken down. I can't remember. I think Dern Stewart double-legged him. There was another one that was Brendan Allen that double-legged him as well. So there's going to be opportunities, in my opinion, if Jacare kind of uses it. That's the big thing, though. But he's also very, very dangerous on the feet. He can knock you out. This fight here, he was losing that fight. He was down 2 rounds, in my opinion. Brought it out in the 3rd round. You look at the Derek Brunson fight, showed great striking. Derek Brunson can be susceptible to getting hit. And that kind of played out in that fight there. When you look at the kind of how these two match up, you've got Kevin Holland, who's very long, really big reach advantage, got a height advantage here, and I think he's got an all-around game that could kind of get him to decision and win the fight. I just think this fight's going to hit the ground more than a couple of times, and I think that if you give Jacare Souza the opportunity to get the fight to the ground, I think he can catch you. So this is a massive, massive fight, in my opinion, for Jacare Souza. And I'm picking him to win here. I'm picking him via submission. I think that he beats Kevin Holland in this spot here. I mean, he's coming off having COVID. Says it, I watched an interview today. Said it didn't affect him at all. Says he was normal. I'm not sure I believe that too much, but the guy's a supreme physical athlete. So who am I to sit here and say that it didn't affect him? So I've heard different stories from NFL guys that it was the worst thing. Pantoja was talking about, like it was a really horrible thing that he had. So yeah, my pick in that one is going to be Jacare Souza. Might turn out to be a little bit of a sketchy pick, not a great pick, but I'm for it. I'm for taking a shot on him in that spot there. If I was a little bit closer with it, the betting, and I wasn't so far up, maybe would be a little bit more cautious with this one, but I'm going to pick Jacare Souza for the win there. Excuse me, guys. Renato Moicano against Rafael Fiziev. This is one I don't think I've got a good read on. I'm on the Fiziev side. But when I watch him, I mean, you watch his last fight against Mark Diakese, and I mean, that was a great, great performance. He was quick to the punch, quick to the kick, whatever it may be he was throwing. Predominantly a kickboxer. I think his kicks and his knees are far better than his hands, but he dazzles you with his kicks, and you have to be careful with those kicks because then he can follow up with the hands. But this is a big jump up against the guy in Moicano, who, I mean, he was down at 145. He was facing the best guys, kind of really only got beat by the best guys down there. And we've only seen a little bit of him at 155 in the Hadzovic fight where he submitted him very, very easily inside the first couple of minutes there. He has a nice jab himself. I think he's a little bit open to low kicks and body kicks, but he can also throw leg kicks as well when you watch back some of his fights. Nice long jab. But what he's going to have to do is get like in quick here, I think, in Fiziev and not get countered with any big shots, because I think you can be dazzled by the kind of speed and the variety of the kicks and the knees from Fiziev a little bit. And that's something that, like I say, to me, it's a big jump up from going from who he's faced, and Alex White, to Mark Diakiese, then up to Moicano, who's not ranked at lightweight, and really he was ranked down at featherweight. But he's a very tough opponent for a lot of guys. And Fiziev, with only 9 fights, a lot more obviously kickboxing fights, and training out of Thailand at Tiger Muay Thai, where he's the head striking coach out there, that he is a very, very, very solid striker. And if this stays standing for the most part, I have to give the advantage to Rafael Fiziev. If it hits the ground, then it's interesting, because then I think there is a bigger opportunity for Moicano to really submit him. And we have only seen a couple of times where he's did that, but I think he's a black belt. It's more than what Fiziev is. I think he's got a lot more grappling experience than what Fiziev will have. I haven't got a good read in this fight. I don't really want to bet it. I think the line is, let me bring up this line here. What is it at? -155. That's a little bit too pure for me. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy this one. My lean is going to be Fiziev via decision. But yeah, if you see something nice in Moicano, it might not be the worst dog play in the world in that one there. So, yep. Moicano should be motivated. So it's been said here his chin won't hold up. We'll see. Co-main event. Oh, what a fucking fight this is. Holy shit. Tony Ferguson against Charles Oliveira. I've been kind of keeping my eye a little bit back and forth in this, and what people are saying and who people are going with. And I'll come out and say my pick is going to be Tony Ferguson. I'm on the El Cucuy side here. I would love, honestly, to see Charles Oliveira to win this fight, because he's been making so many strides in his game that it's not even funny. But in my opinion, he's been doing it against lesser caliber opposition than what Tony Ferguson is. And is Tony Ferguson really done? This is the fight where we're going to see whether he's completely done. I mean, he only lost to Justin Gaethje, who is one of the biggest savages we have in the sport, period. Took a shit ton of damage in that one. I watched some interviews today. Like, the guy's so weird to watch an interview with. It's kind of baffling to me to watch him. I can't really sit for too long and watch him, because the way he speaks and the way he comes across and whatever it may be, just a different kind of dude. Weird kind of dude, but different, yeah. This is a massive fight for Tony Ferguson, because if he loses this one, he loses convincingly, then he could, I don't want to say he'll be on his way out of the sport, but he won't be in title contention anymore. We could be maybe not fighting again, who knows. This is a massive fight to really put him in there. They've got Conor and Poirier in January. That's going to play dividends in some part of this fight. But when you look at Oliveira, I mean, he's been around for over 10 years in the UFC, coming as a young kid, predominantly a grappler, really dangerous jiu-jitsu skills from the get-go, calf slicers, Dutch strokes, triangle chokes, you name it, rear naked chokes. He was nailing everything. And when you look at his losses, none of his losses are bad at all. They're all to really, really, really tough guys. But his recent run there, I'll bring it up, and here's his recent run of fights. Clay Guida, Hiagos, Miller, David Tecia, which I think is a good win, Nick Lentz, Jared Gordon, Kevin Lee. What he's shown in those fights is just a penchant for getting forward and being first to the punch, throwing a lot of heavy strikes, long, loose strikes straight down the pipe, and can hurt you with those shots. And he's not scared to really go to the ground, because he's got the jiu-jitsu skills, that one of the best in the UFC, very opportunistic. But I just don't think it hits there. To me, this is going to be a stand-up fight, and I'm interested to see who kind of takes the centre of the octagon, because I think both guys will try. But to me, I think there's more will on the Tony Ferguson side, and he's a guy that will come through and eat more shots than what I think Charles will. And I don't want to bring this up, because it's, 4 or 5 years ago, when was this last, I don't want to say quit job. So he lost to Paul Felder there, where he had a dominant position and then lost the fight. But the Pettis one, he had a spot there. The Swanson fight, he had a spot. The Holloway one, where he kind of, I don't want to say quit, he supposedly got punched in the throat or something, and that didn't go down too well. But to me, I'm on the Tony Ferguson side. I don't want to bet. I'm going to sit back and thoroughly enjoy this fight. but my pick's going to be Tony Ferguson. I think he's going to be too. I think the output's going to be too much. I think the damaging punches that he does will keep Charles Oliveira back, and I think he will beat Charles Oliveira. I think he'll beat him by decision. I think that it'll be a bit of a bloodbath, but I think he will beat him via decision there. So, main event time, guys. Deiveson Figueiredo against Brandon Moreno for the UFC Flyweight Championship of the World. Yeah, this is a really, really, really interesting fight to see. This is, who have you guys in the chat got? Let me know, because I've seen not too many people on the Moreno side, and I'm not going to claim to be one of the guys on the Moreno side either. So my pick will be Deiveson Figueiredo. I think that it's just his time now where he is going to be dominant. Honestly, I think he's going to be dominant for a little bit. Love the fact that he was calling out Cejudo for talking shit about him and all this jazz. So I just don't see anything. I've seen a lot of people try to fade him against Alex Perez. And if you watch the Perez fight, I think that Perez did make some decisions in that, wrong decisions in that fight. I think he made a couple of mistakes. I think that he put his head too far into the armpit of Deiveson, and he has a really dangerous choke, in my opinion. So you have to be careful of that. I think his hand position was a little bit bad for Perez. And I don't claim to be a jiu-jitsu guy at all, but from talking to a couple of people who know and do jiu-jitsu and stuff, he says that his hand position could have been a little bit better, that he could have did some different things. But yeah, I just don't see where Moreno really has spots in here where he can be dominant for large parts of the fight. Now, we have seen Deiveson in the past being taken down and kind of not control for too long, just by little bits. Formiga got to the back. You've seen Jared Brooks back in the day take him down multiple times. But this guy's a finisher. On the feet, big power for the flyweight division. Looked in the best shape I thought he looked in the UFC last time out. So yeah, like I say, I'm not really... I can see you guys here. Let me bring this up in the chat. Let me just bring this up. Sorry. Oh, I hit the wrong button. So, yeah, let me just show this here. Fig will be hard to beat from the top source game in Winnipeg. You got Figueiredo 100%. It seems a lot of people are on the Figueiredo side, and I like him as a parlay piece personally. I think that I do think this is a really, really, really good spot for him here, but I'm just trying to find the right spot, because last time I bet him straight out in a parlay, I can't remember who it was against either, but Brandon Phillips saying he's got Tony via sub. I like that spot. Could you imagine that? You'll get decent odds on that. So yeah, guys, my pick's going to be Figueiredo. Not too much of a breakdown. I just think now's his time. I think that his power's a bit bludgeoning. I think he's he can be, if he can get into a position where he gets into a choke, I think he's got a great choke. If you watch predictions and stuff in here, Rockstar Z is nearly at 1,000 subs. He's like 950. Go and get him up to 1,000. He talks about this fight for an hour solid, where he really dives in depth on that fight. So go and watch that. But yeah, my pick is going to be Deiveson Figueiredo. I'm going to take him inside the first 3 rounds. I think that he will hurt him. So I've got Deiveson for the win there. So, guys, that's my picks for this card done. We're back next week with Jeff Neal against Wonderboy, the last one of the year. Just thank you for all the support throughout the year. Much, much appreciated. Thanks for sticking with me through this. Thanks for nearly getting me to 4,000 subs, which is really crazy for me. And just thank you for anybody that has helped me regarding the animal charity. Tiger Bob MMA, my boy, my man Johnny there has been helping me out with that. So much, much appreciated. Until next week, guys, all the very, very best. Take care and enjoy this pay-per-view when it comes around this weekend. All the best. Peace.